Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, giant corporations are tearing up billion-dollar legacy software contracts. The AI job market is hiding a massive secret behind closed doors, and we reveal why tech employees are suddenly taking job interviews from their cars.
It's definitely a weird moment out there. I mean, you look online and everyone's just cheering, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, cheering for the supposed AI efficiency. But if you dig into the actual mechanics, someone is about to lose a staggering amount of money, and the market is, frankly, completely blind to who's going to be left holding the bag.
I want to start exactly there, actually, because we're doing a deep dive into the raw data today, and the macroeconomic stakes for the tech industry are just unbelievable.
Right.
I mean, Chamath Palihapitiya highlighted this massive market shift recently. He pointed out on X that Starbucks of all companies, is actively ditching about $400 million in annual software spending.
Which is just an insane amount of money to just, walk away from.
Right. They are walking away from IBM and Microsoft. They're ditching off-the-shelf enterprise software to build custom in-house systems. And Chamath is predicting that this $1 trillion software license market and the $4 trillion services market built around it, they're going to collide into a new $5 trillion custom AI-native category.
Okay, well, we should probably pump the brakes just a little bit on that enthusiasm.
You don't buy it.
I mean, look, Chamath is heavily invested in this exact transition. He literally noted that his own platform, 8090, was built specifically to capture this new market.
Right, talking his own book.
Exactly, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. The real question for you, the listener, is whether this is actually a technological revolution, or are these large enterprises just, being cheap?
Being cheap, you think it's just cost-cutting.
Well, we're in a high interest rate environment. When money isn't virtually free anymore, a $400 million Microsoft bill looks like a very juicy target for a CFO trying to trim the fat.
Yeah, I hear you, but I struggle to write it off entirely as just a budget trick. I mean, even if he's only partially right about the $5 trillion scale, the underlying mechanism is still changing.
Sure, the mechanism is shifting.
If Starbucks can build in a few months what used to require an absolute army of Microsoft engineers over a decade, why would they ever pay a licensing fee again?
And that right there is the catastrophic second-order effect for the established players.
Right.
The entire Silicon Valley business model is built on that recurring revenue moat. You subscribe to the SaaS product and you just pay forever. If companies can suddenly spin up bespoke AI tools internally, that moat evaporates basically overnight.
Which honestly gives a ton of context to why these legacy tech giants are acting so incredibly paranoid right now. They can feel the water recede.
Oh, they definitely feel it.
There's this viral post from Michael Van Horn that highlights a bizarre cultural contrast happening in the Valley. He noted that when he interviews job candidates who work at Google, they just take the video call from a glass conference room on campus.
Yeah, totally relaxed, out in the open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when he interviews Apple employees, he says they almost always take the interview hiding in the front seat of their cars.
I mean, it's pure survival instinct at this point, and honestly, you can't really blame the employees when you look at the legal environment Apple is enforcing.
You're talking about the new lawsuit?
Yeah, the July 2026 lawsuit. Apple is currently suing OpenAI and a bunch of ex-employees, including their former hardware chief, Tang Tan.
Which is wild. The allegations there are just intense. We're talking trade secret theft over unreleased hardware.
Right, it's not just a standard non-compete violation.
No, it's unreturned prototype devices, employees allegedly exploiting internal network bugs to siphon data, and claims that OpenAI actively asked candidates to bring Apple components to their job interviews.
It completely crosses the line from aggressive recruiting into basically corporate espionage.
It certainly feels like espionage, but look at the mechanism Apple is using to stop it. It's a culture of intense peer shaming and severe legal threats.
Yeah, they're making an example out of people.
Exactly. If you drop a massive lawsuit on a former hardware chief, you send a very chilling message to some junior engineer who's just thinking about taking a recruiting call. People used to call Apple a digital Fort Knox, but I don't think that metaphor works anymore.
No, Fort Knox implies you're just keeping people out.
Right. It feels more like a submarine now. If one compartment springs a leak, the protocol is to immediately lock down the bulkheads, trapping whoever is inside just to save the rest of the ship.
That's a dark analogy, but it's pretty accurate.
It keeps the ship from sinking, sure, but it makes every single person terrified to even open a door. My question is, can a culture operating under that kind of lockdown actually survive the open source AI wave?
I highly doubt it. Look, if your goal is to dominate that new $5 trillion custom AI era we just talked about, you need visionary top-tier talent.
Right.
But if you treat your own engineers like potential criminals who have to hide in a Honda Civic just to take a phone call, you are going to alienate the exact people you need. A submarine in lockdown is just a terrible environment for inventing the future.
The irony is that building this massive corporate fortress might be economically pointless anyway,
Totally.
because the fundamental cost of intelligence, the actual secret sauce these companies are trying so hard to protect, it's plummeting. The API bills for the giant frontier models are starting to look, frankly, very strange.
Strange is an understatement. The industry is wrestling with a brutal realization about the economics of scale right now. Everyone just assumed the largest, most capable frontier models would consume every single use case.
Well, let's put some hard numbers to that, because Sam Altman shared something fascinating. He highlighted a report from a dev team comparing OpenAI's massive new model, GPT 5.6 Sol, against Anthropic's Claude Fable 5.
And we should clarify for the listener, this comes down to tokens. Tokens are essentially the little puzzle pieces of words that AI reads and writes.
Right, exactly. So the dev team reported that Fable 5 used only 5% of their total token volume, which is about 1.72 billion tokens.
A tiny fraction of the workload.
But that tiny fraction drove 30% of their total costs compared to the OpenAI model, which processed nearly 31 billion tokens. Anthropic's model was costing them 7 to 8 times more per billion tokens.
And that massive cost discrepancy is exactly why the disruption isn't coming from the giant tech conglomerates anymore. The real threat is coming from the bottom up.
Small models.
Yes, it's a massive counterattack from small, highly efficient models.
Sam Hogan actually broke this down beautifully in a post. He built something called Inference Auto-Tune. He's taking these massive, incredibly expensive frontier models and just distilling their knowledge down into tiny, task-specific, small language models.
Right, SLMs.
We're talking models with maybe 1 to 30 billion parameters, which is microscopic compared to GPT-4, and he does it with just 25 lines of code.
The economics of that are just staggering. By shrinking the model to do one specific job really well, you drop your running costs and your latency, the time it takes the AI to answer by over 90%.
That's huge.
It is. You can train this small model for under $250 in a couple of hours, and most importantly, you own the weights. The software is yours forever.
So no subscription fee.
Exactly. If you're a startup or even Starbucks, why would you pay Anthropic a massive premium every single month for a basic data extraction when you can build a bespoke small model for the cost of a nice dinner?
It's not just that the models are getting smaller, though. The actual architecture of how they think is getting smarter.
Right. The efficiency gains aren't just from shrinking things.
Alex Verem shared a major breakthrough out of Tsinghua and South China University of Technology. They built a framework called the Atomic Task Graph. Now, normally, AI plans like recipe step 1, step 2, step 3.
So it's entirely linear.
Yes, linear. The problem is if the AI drops the eggs at step 2, the whole cake is ruined and the system just crashes.
Which is a very fragile way to operate, especially for complex coding tasks.
But this new framework uses a directed acyclic graph. Instead of a straight line, think of it like a branching tree. This lets the AI cook in parallel.
Testing different paths simultaneously.
Exactly. It tests different ingredients in a simulation before committing to the next step. If one branch fails, it just repairs that specific failure without restarting the whole process. And by just changing how the AI plans, they took a tiny 7 billion parameter open source model, and it actually beat GPT-4 on the ALF World Benchmark.
Wow. Wait, really? A 7 billion model beat GPT-4?
Yes. The success rate jumped from 41 to over 63. And the hallucination rate where the AI just makes things up, it dropped from 43% down to just 12%.
That's wild.
No extra data, no extensive fine-tuning, literally just a better blueprint.
Which completely undermines the narrative that you need a trillion-dollar data center to compete. But, this massive leap in efficiency brings us to a really uncomfortable contradiction in the current tech culture.
You mean regarding jobs?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you look at the surface-level hype, this efficiency is supposedly creating a massive boom. Aaron Levy, the CEO of Box, pointed out that software job postings are actually outpacing other fields right now.
Which seems counterintuitive at first.
Right, but he credits the Jevons paradox. It basically says that when a technology lowers the cost of producing a resource, our demand for that resource actually skyrockets. Because code is now incredibly cheap to write, every company suddenly wants more of it.
Right. The theory is that it expands the universe of what is economically viable to build.
And there's a developer who goes by Bubble Boy who gave a perfect real-world example. He's using AI to write complex C drivers for PCIe endpoints.
Oh man, that is notoriously dense work.
Extremely. For anyone unfamiliar, a PCIe endpoint driver is essentially the high-speed translator between the brain of a computer and the physical hardware plugged into it. It is frustrating, tedious work.
Yeah.
But he said AI is acting as a force multiplier. It's allowing him to take on a massive volume of work that would have been completely impossible manually a year ago.
Okay, I have to push back on this optimistic narrative, though.
I figured you would.
Look, the Jevons paradox makes sense in a vacuum, but the reality on the ground feels a lot darker when you strip away all the social media posturing. Jamin Holmgren, who has been a professional dev since 1992, posted about this.
What did he say?
He said that when you get developers offline and you have candid one-on-one conversations with senior engineers, they are deeply shell-shocked right now.
Shell-shocked by the speed of it all.
By the speed, yes, but also by the inevitable trajectory. All that public posturing about, oh, AI just makes me a faster coder, it's just a coping mechanism.
You think they're in denial?
100%. Deep down, these senior engineers realize that the endgame here isn't just human coders typing faster. The endgame is autonomous agents replacing them entirely.
Gary Tan, the head of Y Combinator, essentially confirmed this out loud.
Yeah.
Y Combinator's legendary motto has always been, make something people want. But Gary recently stated the new mandate is, make something agents want.
Right.
He was specifically praising new software tools that prioritize clean API access for machines over building nice visual dashboards for humans. We aren't the primary end users of software anymore.
And if you want to see the terrifying logical conclusion of Gary Tan's mandate, you just have to look at the leaked memo from the CEO of Zippo AI, which is a major player in the space.
Oh, the GLM memo.
Yeah. It details their Touch High plan. Publicly, they're aiming for artificial general intelligence in 2 years. But the chilling part is their internal vision for the dawn of the no-person company.
A completely hollowed-out corporation.
Yeah.
Literally 0 human employees.
Exactly 0. It would be run entirely by thousands of specialized digital employees.
Oh.
And these agents aren't just sitting around waiting for a human prompt.
Right, they're proactive.
They're debating each other, they're collaborating across departments, and they're operating autonomously 24 hours a day.
So think about the company you work for right now. How many layers of management exist just to pass information from the marketing department to the engineering department? What happens to your specific job when a digital agent can instantly synchronize that data without a single meeting?
It vanishes.
If the digital employees are doing the building, the debating, and the managing, what does the human architect actually do?
I think the role of the human shrinks down to purely setting boundaries. We just become the verifiers.
Developer Victor Tellin described his new workflow in a way that captures this perfectly. He builds incredibly complex systems using something called HVM and Bend.
Those are tools for massively parallel functional programming, right?
Yes, in lambda calculus. Essentially, it's a way to give a computer an unbreakable mathematical blueprint rather than letting it duct tape messy code together. But what's fascinating is the strict warning he gives his AI.
What does he tell it?
He tells the AI that his human requests are just approximate pointers toward a clean design. He completely refuses to accept AI giving him temporary duct tape fixes.
See, he's drawing a hard line. The human provides the abstract intent, and the machine is completely responsible for the optimal, mathematically sound execution.
Another developer, Stipete, echoed this exact sentiment. He said, and I quote, "Let me verify a couple of load-bearing facts before I give you the architecture assessment."
That's a great phrase, load-bearing facts.
That right there is the entire new job description for the knowledge worker. We aren't coding. We aren't writing the marketing copy. We are just checking the load-bearing facts to make sure the AI hasn't hallucinated a structurally unsound building.
And if we pull back from the corporate tech world for a second and look at what this means for normal people, the societal implications are massive.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if AI lowers the barrier to creation this drastically, everyday individuals are suddenly empowered to bypass legacy institutions completely. We are entering an era of bespoke reality.
I love that phrase, bespoke reality, because we are seeing it play out in highly specialized fields right now, like medicine.
Yeah, the MRI story.
Yes. Michael Schweibold shared this crazy story. He was a patient at a clinic in Germany, got an MRI, and the clinic handed him his medical data on a raw USB stick just expecting him to go home and try to install some clunky, outdated Windows software just to look at his own brain.
Which is how the medical system has operated for decades. The institution controls the interface, which means they control your understanding of your own health.
Not anymore, though. Michael took that raw data, fit it into Claude, and built his own custom HTML MRI viewer in a single afternoon.
That is just nuts.
And his homegrown tool completely blew away the German clinic's million-dollar enterprise software. He added instant scrubbing, scribble annotations, and thumbnail grids to compare different spine and brain scans. It was objectively superior to the hospital's tool.
And we are seeing this democratization of specialized tools everywhere. It's not just medicine.
Exactly. Deelam Sanjaya built something called a Pollinator Lab using Gemini 3.1 Pro. It's this gorgeous interactive application featuring detailed 3D models of orchid bees and vesper bats.
Very niche, but very cool.
Then you have James Longster, who built a highly technical 3D color visualization tool. He mapped out the physical wavelengths of light from 380 to 750 nanometers to visually compare XYZ color models against RGB color models.
I mean, that sounds incredibly complex.
To explain that simply, he built a tool that compares the actual physical physics of how light hits the human eye against how red, green, and blue pixels glow on a computer monitor.
The societal shift here is profound. If a patient can build better diagnostic software in an afternoon than a hospital can purchase, and a solo developer can map out the spectral locus of visible light without needing a university research grant, the legacy institutions are losing their absolute authority over how data is interpreted.
Right, the traditional gatekeepers are just vanishing.
But removing the gatekeepers is giving society a massive case of vertigo. Technology is moving at such a breakneck speed that policymakers are ironically looking thousands of years backward just to find a philosophical anchor.
Yeah, when the future is entirely unpredictable, you look for systems that have survived chaos. Dean Ball, who works on strategic futures at OpenAI, revealed something fascinating about this.
About the Talmud, right?
Yes. He noted that AI policy professionals are actively turning to the Talmud and Jewish halakha as models for AGI governance.
It sounds kind of bizarre at first to mix ancient religious texts with artificial superintelligence, but the mechanics actually make perfect sense.
Right, because they are studying these ancient texts, because the Talmud is essentially a masterclass in preserving complex, conflicting arguments across centuries.
It survived regime changes, adversarial interpretations, societal collapse.
Exactly. If you're trying to write a set of alignment rules for superintelligence that will outlive you, you need a governance framework that can survive unimaginable pressure without breaking.
And that exact same psychological search for permanence is happening in the financial world, too. Michael Saylor posted a massive warning to the Bitcoin community regarding a technical proposal called BIP 110.
What is BIP 110 trying to do exactly?
Well, it was originally designed to solve a problem with network spam, but Saylor is fighting fiercely against it because implementing it requires changing the fundamental consensus rules of Bitcoin.
Oh, I see.
If enacted, it would retroactively invalidate certain types of transactions that were previously considered perfectly valid and fee-paying. Think of it like a bank retroactively deciding that a check you cleared last year is suddenly invalid because they updated their filing system.
Which would cause chaos.
Saylor argues this betrays the absolute core of cypherpunk principles.
Because it proves the rules of the game can be altered after the fact.
Precisely. Both the AI alignment scholars studying the Talmud and the Bitcoin maximalists fighting over BIP 110 are waging the exact same war. They're asking, how do we create a foundation of rules that absolutely cannot be corrupted, edited, or swept away by the rapid evolution of the system itself? Society is just terrified of mutability right now.
Which brings up a post from Paul Graham that serves as the perfect bookend to how much our psychology has inverted on this.
Oh, I love this post.
His son recently asked him what his very first tweet was. It was from August 2010, and he was just thanking someone for securing the handle for him. But his second tweet, posted a day later, was him complaining to Twitter that he couldn't edit his posts because he had gotten a username wrong.
It's the ultimate nostalgic contrast, really.
It is. In 2010, we were begging tech platforms to let us edit our digital mistakes. We demanded flexibility and the power to revise history.
Yeah, we wanted an undo button for everything.
Fast forward to 2026, and we are clinging to immutable protocols like Bitcoin and ancient debates in the Talmud precisely because no central authority can easily edit them. We went from demanding an edit button to demanding a bedrock that nobody has the power to alter.
Well, we've experienced a complete collapse in institutional trust. We no longer trust the digital systems we're building to remain stable, so we are attempting to hard code immutability wherever we possibly can.
Right.
Which actually brings me to a very cynical but highly probable prediction for the next 48 hours in the corporate world.
Oh, let's hear it.
Based on that massive token cost gap Sam Altman highlighted earlier, combined with the explosive rise of those 25-line small models like AutoTune, I predict that within 48 hours, a Fortune 500 company will announce a total ban on using cloud-based frontier models for their internal development.
A total ban.
A total ban. They will mandate a shift entirely to localize 7 billion parameter models running on their own hardware. The PR team will frame it as a strict security measure, citing the corporate espionage we saw with Apple.
Sure, they'll spin it as safety.
But the underlying truth is that a chief financial officer looked at the monthly API bill for models like Claude Fable 5, realized they were bleeding cash for basic tasks, and just pulled the plug. Cost and corporate paranoia are going to kill the cloud frontier model for daily engineering work.
The economics certainly point in that direction.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with a provocative final thought to mull over for this deep dive.
Lay it on us.
If Chamath is right about the $5 trillion custom software boom, and the Jevons paradox means we are about to see an unimaginable explosion of code, what happens when that no-person company from the Zippo AI memo decides it needs new tools?
Right.
What happens when an autonomous agent decides to negotiate a custom software contract directly with another AI agent? Are you currently building skills that will matter in a human economy, or are you just preparing to verify load-bearing facts for the machines? Think about it. Thank you for doing this deep dive with us today. Stay skeptical, stay informed, and keep casting the right vibes.
Keep an eye on your API spend and double-check those load-bearing facts. We'll see you tomorrow.